Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review the new low-budget horror film, Medusa. And this is from writer-director Matthew B.C. and starring Megan Purvis as Carly, our main character, who gets bitten by this weird, cursed, poisonous snake and then turns into Medusa. And yeah, that's what we got in this movie. And she also starred in Hatched, which I also watched recently. She seems to be making the low-budget horror movie circuit. First things first, this is very obviously low budget, and it shows. And you have Matthew B.C. This film feels really bland and boring in terms of its direction. The direction's very flat, it's gray, there's no kind of energy. There's a few scenes where there's like these hallucinations and stuff like that where it feels like there's something interesting or some kind of energy going on, which is one of the reasons why it saved this from being like an F. But there's a couple of moments that felt inspired, but in general it feels very bland and really lacks energy. And they're like, up until she gets bit, all of these like serious like human drama issues that she's dealing with feel so inconsequential and uninteresting because it just feels like there's nothing, there's no passion or energy, or like the music's not working in its way, and like all that stuff, it just feels like I was just watching some random people have some random conversations, even though it's like this is like there's this like abusive man who's putting her in a bad place in her life, and it's like that should feel tense filled, but there's no tension here. And you have a lot of stereotypes, like the only people of color in this movie are the people with this weird curse that turns her into this Medusa person. I'm like, what is this, like a Universal horror film from like the 40s where it's like, oh, the gypsies, and it's just like it feels a little weird and outdated representation, probably not the best thing going for this movie. And like I wouldn't, like that could be like a thing if the rest of this worked really well, because there's some great films with like those Universal horror films are great. This isn't. And it's just like another thing on top of it. There's some fun effects and some interesting things. Like there's definitely body horror stuff, and she's like peeling off her like shedding skin and stuff like that, and that works, and that's interesting. So that's something that does work. It does build to like this big crazy climax at the end of the movie that like kind of leaves you like, is this like obnoxiously setting up for a sequel? Because it really feels that way. It's like opening things up. It felt like this character is fully realized at the end of the movie, ready to go for like something big, and then you're just like, boop, ran out of time. See you next time on Medusa 2. More snakes? I don't know. And this film kind of just ends on like this building up point that you're just like, why hasn't this energy been here the whole rest of the movie? And then you're just left to be like, oh, well, what did I waste all this time for? Like this all felt like the first act of a movie, really stretched out to like an hour and 20 minutes, and there's no real action and payoff to it. It's like an origin stories but like done in like a fractured kind of way where it feels like it's just part of a story. So by the end, I felt really unsatisfied with this as a cinematic experience. There's some cool, interesting things like effects-wise and a couple of inspired scenes, especially at the very end, which those effects were CGI, like Medusa snakes were, I don't know. But in the end, I feel like this film is just one of those really low-budget, passable kind of, like, just gonna walk by that one. See that in like the $3 bin on like a DVD, if it even makes it to physical media. This will probably just be floating around on VOD out there. But like if you're really into these kinds of horror films that are like really low budget and schlocky and just you can perceive them as silly, go for it. Have some fun with Medusa. I didn't really have fun with it though. But those are my thoughts on Medusa. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.